Only when a phenomenon does not represent itself, it is amenable to analysis. Jacques Lacan, on the names of the Father. Hello! In this video lecture, I am going to talk about the purpose of a human's life as the concept of being. The concept of being and the purpose of a human's life are the two sides of the same process. The existence of a human of the initial kind will become impossible in the nearest future without understanding of this process in our days. Rapid changes in the way of living of the so-called civilized humanity during the last 150–170 years, especially during the last 50–70 years, resemble a flight of a kite over the cuckoo's nest with a background view of a gigantic anthill destroyed to the base. These changes are raising new fundamental questions. At the same time, we all know that everything new is well forgotten old. The following questions are raised more often by concerned and attentive individuals. Why did the so-called progress of the science and technology turn the modern human into a slave, leaving the animal stage aside with a predominant reflex of taking pleasure in consumption? Why do the people almost voluntarily allow themselves to be caught in the digital net and do not wonder, is there another way of living without the internet? Why is the artificial intelligence developed, integrated, and promoted while the natural human intelligence is unfulfilled, surrendered, and replaced? Why did the mass education turn from the upbringing and training system into the non-stop production of the global stultification of the rising generation? Why are the rich getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, while the middle class is disappearing? Why is there 1%, perhaps even less, of wealthy individuals who own the planet with all its content? Why does the world have such an order and not another? Who benefits from this world order? What goals does it pursue? And who is behind it? What is the purpose of a human's life, and why the majority of humans do not ask themselves this question? Looking from the perspective of the observer detached from the imposed templates by the mass education at the dynamics of the changes in the world order, the strong impression is formed on the existence and functioning of the gigantic, invisible 3D printer shaping the main product of our human being, psyche and emotions. 3D in this case stands for disinformation, degradation, and decay. As a result, this product in the form of collective psyche or mass consciousness with corresponding emotional background is becoming of a better quality year after year, creating new paradoxical reality. Political scientists, sociologists, psychologists, culture experts, historians, showmen, and other experts in disguise are trying to explain this paradoxical reality unsuccessfully, expanding the clusters of new lies in already blurred mass consciousness. The first and the main obstacle in understanding the concept of being for the majority of people is their perception of the world around them through the firm belief in mechanical materialism, which is expressed by generally accepted chain consisting of electron, positron, proton, atom, molecule, compound of elements, substance such as gas, liquid, solid, compound of substances, material world, cell, protozoa, metazoa, reptile, ape, human. Despite the religiousness of a person, the human consciousness remained within the paradigm of the mechanical materialism, regardless whether the word God is placed in the beginning of the chain or at the end of it. Seems like monotheistic God, often portrayed as an old grey-haired man, simply ejected himself from this reality after creating it as the described chain, leaving created material object, including the apex of his creation, behind in this world, while remaining in another or invisible world, or superfine plane, and keep pushing the object further from the subject. By the object, I mean humans and our world, and by the subject, the Creator Himself. Discovery of genes, elementary particles, possibilities of changing DNA structures, cloning of cells, development of the artificial intelligence evolved from the implicit or hidden undermining of theistic or divine predestiny into the direct mind-bending statement that everything the human and the Creator knows, that they both know nothing. Since the particles create equilibrium themselves, the law of conservation and transformation of energy, along with both so-called laws of thermodynamics, define the genesis and the entire being, from the planet and galactic's movement to the movement of the human soul. Life is about the fight with entropy, according to Erwin Schrödinger, and the world of a subject is nothing else but his own hallucination, according to Jacques Lacan. Witnessed by the silent churches, the human of the material world, endowed with a free will and a freedom of choice, goes to the bed with this fight in his own world, turning what used to be a sin into a mass cult, sincerely convinced that his thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and doings are originated by him and thus owned by him. Only after his death the human meets the God again to summarize his deeds. This ignorant, materialistic approach is the fundamental deception for the true perception and comprehension of our reality, and is not an error, but an alien world outlook. This deception began in the middle of the 19th century, with the sudden scientific and technological progress, along with the emergence of the technological environment in its current corrupt state. What happened was a global planetary disaster in the form of a war, with the use of high-power nuclear weapon or equivalent to one. The factual evidence of this event is available from many reliable independent resources and deserve a separate video lecture or even a film, due to the colossal amount of information. We are not going to explain it in details at this stage for this reason. The use of mass destruction weapon caused the flood of water, mud and sand, global radioactive pollution, extinction of forests and groves, climate change, and enormous human fatalities. nearly half of the planet's population died. It was the apocalypse that we are all heard of and some doomsday believers are waiting for. Therefore, the apocalypse is the event of the past and not the future. The time we are living in should be called post-apocalyptic. The formation of the entire world's civilization was changed. The spiritual family relations were interrupted. The old traditional way of life was replaced by new, hideous, and alien world order. The human upgrade project with the purpose to modify humans' divine nature and to expel the Holy Spirit or the Creator's own image has commenced. This project is about to end successfully these days. As a result of the great global transformation, human turned from an apex of creation into a slave, or a livestock to be precise. However, the slave, being in a manipulated and altered state of mind, doesn't realize his current status. Moreover, the majority of slaves are dreaming to become slaveholders. I'm confident that to initiate the change of this situation, every slave needs to squeeze out the slaveholder from inner self, little by little, and never watch the TV. Next, I will be answering the following questions. How could this happen and why? And who is behind this? The other side of the unseen world, or the kingdom come, or the fine and superfine plane, is the integral part of our material world. Its fundamental base and the primal source for existence of our visible world and all living beings. The world is the unity of these integral parts and is divided into material and immaterial form. They like two hemispheres forming the full sphere of our one world or being or existence. Both cooperate with each other and complete each other, fusing into one indissoluble unity. Humans possessing the living souls must understand that all emotions, images, desires, true motivation, and even the significant part of thoughts is the result of the impulse originated by the source from the superfine and fine plane. The figure at the source of this impulse sets the tone, the rate, the rhythm, the frequency of vibrations, and this way influences not only the actions of the certain people, but also the historical events we are witnessing as a totality of inception of an idea, then a project, and later methods of its implementation, transforming it into the sense-bearing yet invisible outcome. This outcome is materializing in our world and becoming perceptible for people who do not seem to understand the sense of what's happening. It is therefore important for the humans to know how to identify the source of their inspiration, emotions, energy, imagination, and thoughts, and who regulates this source, since the invisible world, or the fine and superfine plane, is not uniform. The superfine plane, the fine plane, and the material manifestation is affected by several global forces. There are 7 of them in total in the intergalactic space. However, the humans in possession of souls and the humanity in general within the Earth space are affected by 3 forces: the light forces of being, the hijacking force or gray forces, or the grays with A, and Lucifer force. These forces always affect the humans regardless of their awareness of this fact. The impact depends on the states of consciousness of the humans. The gray forces who entered the coalition with Lucifer force hijacked the part of our solar system, including the Earth. The gray forces took advantage of the absence of the light gods due to their involvement in the course of another confrontation, or, in other words, non-stop global war. Yet the essential was the guardian light gods defecting to the grey forces and such committing the treason. This is how the grey force and Lucifer force took the possession of our living space along with the space surrounding the Earth. These forces direct the great global transformation of humanity, representing the real authority of our world, which should be called reigning dominion. For this reason, it is crucial to comprehend that all ancient and traditional customs, prayers, rites, rituals, spells, methods of communication, and resistance are either no longer functioning or serve reigning dominion. This fact should be crystal clear to everyone. It is worth to mention here that familiar symbols often have completely different meaning from the commonly known to the majority of population. As a matter of fact, the icon of our channel is the icon of the light forces of being and signifies the unity of the light forces of being under the guidance of one basic force. The great example of the mentioned is the amendment made in the Lord's Prayer, also known as Our Father, by Pope Francis this year. All the mourning and groaning about a gone glory and the appeal for return to the old way of life, various religious cults, esoteric knowledge, etc., is authorized and promoted by reigning dominion, and is nothing else but an act of misleading from understanding the real situation by humans. At the same time, it is obvious for everyone that there is no use of old computer hardware in creating new program to achieve the goals of the future. Likewise, there is no use of any of these old practices. Believing in friendly aliens and energy shift has no merit. The responsibility of rescuing ourselves is ours, with the condition that humans suffering the consequences of the ruling power of reigning dominion have to realize the necessity of rescuing themselves. It is necessary to seek and find the new resolution to the current situation that appears hopeless to the majority. That's exactly what we will be doing with thoughtful and concerned humans like you. Existence is a totality of vibrations of different fields, energy, information, torsion, etc., in a form of waves of different frequency and length, which means that existence is based on vibrations and waves and not mechanics. As a consequence, influencing us global forces affect and manipulate human consciousness using different frequencies. Yet, the simple knowledge of this fact is insufficient. Human beings need to comprehend with their minds and hearts, sense with their skin constant presence of the light forces of being and natural belonging to them. And that's not it, since it is mandatory for the humans to develop and grow the yearning for rapport, mutual respect, and collaboration with these forces by the means of individual contact without any mediators. This will help to adopt the right attitude, not only regarding the material issues, but also regarding the mindset and, most importantly, regarding the purpose of human life and unity of people where they are born, living, creating, and departing to the other world. The question about the purpose of life is the key issue of the human consciousness, affecting all aspects of human life. Sadly, this only questioned by insignificant percentage of Earth inhabitants, mostly of old age. Unfortunately, the answer usually cannot be found, or is limited to the material matters, for example, job, career, personal and family welfare, health, etc., or to religious matters, for example, salvation, without any understanding what does it mean, how to do it, and why. Real salvation is conscious and sometimes painful determination of goals and objectives of the entire life path of the human. Not only it is the ability of humans to move towards harmonization of emotional, mental, or cognitive and physiological perception of objective reality on their path of material existence, but also the sincere striving for the improvement of the surrounding material and spiritual world. This perception is built from learning and acceptation of the simple truth with both the mind and the heart, as follows: the immaterial world, the unseen world, or the sphere of the superfine plane to be precise, is not a parallel world or kingdom come, located somewhere far away, but rather an objectively existing reality of our being in our material world, which is always around us and inside us. There is no division between the superfine plane and the material manifestation, never was and never will be. This is why the humans, knowing their life goals and understanding their purposes of life, don't need the mediators such as religious institutes, magicians, sorcerers, psychics, and other esoteric charlatans for the communication with the light forces of being. The movement of the humans towards achieving the resonance with the light forces of being is the salvation, which is a very important aspect in understanding the life goal and the purpose of life for the humans in the possession of living souls. So, what is the life goal and the purpose of life of the human? The life goal of the human is to synchronize personal field of vibrations and waves with the vibrations of the light forces of being and the Creator Himself, which is the main precondition for the physiological, cognitive, emotional, and spiritual activity intended for artistic transformation of the outside world, community, and oneself in the image of the Creator. That is, the fulfillment of the plan, which is attainment of absolute justice in the sphere of material manifestation and the sphere of superfine plane of being, with the unity of spiritually related humans. This is the fundamental and sole life goal of the human, and the process of reaching this goal is the highest purpose of life and the salvation. Only after setting this kind of high purpose of life, humans are able of understanding the fair concept of being and are capable of answering these questions: who am I and why am I living? Transforming themselves and the surrounding world by stopping and destroying this gigantic 3D printer, producing disinformation, degradation, and decay, and remain humans after all. In the next video, we will talk about challenges and primary objectives which are essential for the human to achieve the life goal and being as it's meant to be. We are also planning on launching the website in the nearest future, containing unique information regarding our being and world outlook, so any help, including financial, is appreciated.